Tan Vinh, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And as you were speaking, funny enough, there is a balloon flying right across from me. It's a happy birthday balloon, go. Not a
they're not
spy
gonna
balloon.
they're not gonna shoot
Literally,
it down.
there's a
Yeah.
balloon.
Yeah, right as I'm talking to two Asian guys too. So all right. Yeah.
Burn.
I suppose it could be from Mexico. I don't know. Hey, Tom,
What is up? What,
thanks.
three balloons in the last
I
48
Is the
hours?
balloon
know.
hopping?
It's just like too weird, too weird. Well, back to the food scene. Well, Todd, as we enter 2023, I mean, we're still coming out of COVID. So what's the restaurant scene and the food bar scene looking like? Are they making a comeback?
Ah, comeback is too strong a word. I think a lot of them are struggling. There's no more PPP money. I think the model restaurants you're gonna see now in the Asian community is just not the fancy restaurants, but it's more the fast casual. Like it's more the banh mi style, the rice bowls, something that is more streamlined, requires less labor, and has a higher profit margin. Um, I think it's pretty devastating what's going on here. People aren't eating out as much. Inflation is high. Food costs is high. One of the things that we don't talk about that I think is really big in, say, the past week is the fact that now the city has allowed for patios to be permanent on the
Right.
sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a game changer. No one talks about this because we think, oh, patio means, we can sit outside. But the hidden cost here is the fact that if you have patios, you have extra seats because real estate is expensive here. So Enrique and Matt, if you have a 20-seat restaurant, that's not a lot, but you're at a corner lot and you can put 10 tables outside, you just increase your capacity without you got more real estate while having to pay for it. So I
Ah,
think that would be a big game changer.
Right.
Come summer. Not
I,
now, but come summer.
I live in the Ballard area and Old Ballard Avenue, a lot of great restaurants there. And all those, not all of those places, but many of them have, they set up the patio thing. And after COVID, they also have the Ballard Market that happens on Sundays happening there. It's just become something that I see it everywhere now.
Yeah. Do you like it?
I have only used it a couple of times, and yeah, it's been fine, even with the weather being bad, because now they've got the outside heaters and things, and so it's comfortable. And to be honest with you, as somebody's a little bit older and still worried about COVID, it's more. I feel a bit more secure and comfortable, because I'm outside. And so, yeah, I don't mind it at all. As long as I can bundle up or whatever, the weather's cooperating. But yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's good.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
Enrique and Matt, I
yeah,
think one benefit that you have, like in Ballard now, is now that you have this extended restaurant. That's what it is. It's just another word for like patio. You're gonna see come summer, there's gonna be extended. Like come 3 p.m., you're gonna see a lot of restaurants do happy hour. Restaurants that used to start happy hour at 5 will now start at 3 to take advantage of that weather and that real estate. And then when the kitchen shuts down at 10 p.m. at night, they're going to do happy hour after 10 p.m. And it's just going to be a simple menu of just like wine bottles and a charcuterie plate. It's just to extend, to make up for the lost money that they've
mm,
lost these past 2 or 3
yeah.
years.
But doesn't that whole deal disadvantage smaller mom and pop restaurants that just barely can afford their space? But for example, in the CID, there's only one there's only one restaurant, Gambay, that actually expanded out, and that's a very small space they have. But they parking is such a premium. No
Yeah.
one's going to allow them to build out into the street in Chinatown because then
Right?
people will be double parking. So you just create an impasse. Can't even get by.
Yeah. No, good point, Matt, because it is in Capitol Hill and Ballard, they're all in the sidewalk cafes. Chinatown, not so much.
Right.
Some neighborhoods on the fence. So yeah, it depends how you look at it. Uh, the problem with Chinatown is the streets are kind of uneven, so it's also kind of hard to put a table
Yeah.
without like a block or a newspaper to just like even out the table. And I don't understand why that is, but yeah, it's really
Well,
uneven. In
no
the sidewalk.
infrastructure, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
always been a problem.
Right.
yeah. And the
So,
other problem you have is the homeless issue. It's
Oh
one of
yeah.
the tough issues. It's like people seem to, and this is a tough subject with the minority and Asian community. It's like, why are you letting like homeless people in Chinatown, whereas you wouldn't do that in Ballard? Well, Ballard do have some, but like other neighborhoods, it seems to be heavily concentrated in
Well,
Chinatown.
yeah, that's what I fought all summer against the mega shelter. I mean,
Yeah,
one of the big problems there is that the encampment is in the heart of the business section. I mean,
exactly.
that it's not off the freeway, it's not in the outskirts, it's right in the middle.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was interesting. I saw some video at was it Harbor City where somebody just walked in and just took their hand and grabbed a bunch of food off someone's plate and started eating it. Yeah.
Oh gosh, Matt. You know the funny thing is, people who listen to this might think you're exaggerating, but this is common, especially Seven Spice stores that block. They were
Oh
just
yeah.
taken over by just not loitering, but drug deals, a lot of handshake cash deals and so forth. And they showed me videos constantly of just like people breaking in, stealing purses, and the staff can't even park in the garage because they
Oh,
get
I know.
broken
Yeah.
into.
I mean,
It's a
people
tough
walk into the
situation.
barbecue places and just will grab a duck and walk
Yeah,
out with it. I mean,
yeah,
what are the
Wow.
owners going to do? Hit the guy
yeah.
with a cleaver? I mean, you can't do that.
Right. And it's funny, isn't it? Because some of these stories sounds absurd, but unless you're in Chinatown or unless you're in newspaper, you see the actual video. It's like this is the reality we live in. Holy
Yeah.
smokes!
Well, one of the questions I want, if you go into like DoorDash or Uber Eats or any of those, probably 95% of the restaurants on there are ethnic restaurants.
Right.
Does that reflective of the actual food scene in Seattle, or is that just because that food travels well and they're willing to bite the bullet on expense of having those services?
Both. I say one, a lot of the Asian food travel well. They hold up well. And two, a lot of Asian businesses, they're really in. They actually promote DoorDash or whatever. Even if you use websites for a lot of like taco trucks and Vietnamese and Chinese restaurant, it would just click you right to some ordering format of DoorDash or something. That is part of their model. I would say a lot of the mainstream business or maybe spaces are like Italian or high end, they are less inclined because DoorDash takes too big a cut. Yeah. And
So what?
this is sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, finish your thought.
No, and this is the thing that always bugged me, and I think it's along the same line, Matt Enrique, and that is like a lot of Asian business are taking like they do DoorDash and they're thinking a bigger lump in this because they take a bigger cut. And we seem to accept this. And I feel so bad for some of the Asian business because they're just barely getting by. And I bring this up and I'll circle back. And that is, I'll give you an example. Right now you see a lot of hand pulled noodles. It's just, see a guy twirling like it's a flag or something like that. Hand pulled noodle, freshly made with meat, is now $15.99, $14.99. And people in Yelp are going bonkers saying Chinese food should not cost this much.
Yeah.
Italian restaurants, fresh pasta with ragu or bolognese, minced meat sauce is $22 to $26. And no one complains. It's like we have this image. It kills me, Enrique. It just kills me.
Yeah.
Where Asians can't charge more. Right? It's just weird. And
Well, that's true with a lot of ethnic foods, like Indian food, Mexican food.
Mexican food. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Everybody
Well, I
thinks
get tacos at Taco Bell for $1.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's weird. I'll give you an example right now from this week. The hottest restaurant on the east side, the hottest opening, you can't get in until late April. It's called Cantina Monarque. It's a high-end Mexican bar. It's a Wagyu taco, tortillas, handmade, heirloom, masa, and a gourmet taco is like from $9 to $11. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's high quality meat and everything. And people have written hate mails to me. It was not reviewed. I'm just saying it's out there. I'm just saying this restaurant exists. You can't get in until mid-April. Taco is like $12, but it's high-end Wagyu cut. And people are bonkers because the taco costs $11 to $12. I bring this up because what it is a slab of high-end meat in a taco heirloom, right? And so people are going bonkers with that. I go to a lot of small plate restaurant. That same slab of meat on a small plate with little beans and legumes, whatever, will cost you 18 to 20 bucks. No one complains about that. But because he used the word taco, and taco is like, oh, cheap food, people, I've been getting so much hate mails. Like, how could you promote a $12 taco, blah, blah, blah. It's weird. Only
Hey,
an ethnic restaurant.
I
Banh
mean,
mi, taco.
is it like, the ethnic restaurants aren't supposed to get hit by inflation or something? They're supposed to make it cheaper for folks. That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's really crazy.
I give you another example, man. We get like, people always ask, oh, why can I get cheap tacos or $1, $2? And when I've been driving around, where I see them is in Kent, in the South End.
Mm.
And when I go in there, there's a common denominator. One place was in Des Moines. It was the son volunteering to help his mother out. I went to a restaurant next to a gas station in Kent. The entire family, including a kid that couldn't be more than 10 years old, helping out. So they're not taking salaries. That's how come you can make it so cheap, right? That's how come when you hear white restaurants or mainstream restaurants say, hey, you got to pay more. We have a high minimum wage, blah, 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 labor costs. And then ethnic restaurants are using their own families, a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
Free labor.
Well, that's the difference between profit margin versus survival.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Well,
people don't realize that. They just like, I don't care about that. I want my tacos to cost $2. I want my banh mi to keep costing $3.
Yeah.
Enrique, I'll give you, sorry, and I'll leave this. When you say you live in Ballard, I remember, God, what is that place called? You have a new Vietnamese restaurant. I think it's called Crackle Me, maybe.
oh,
And
really?
they sell pho and banh mi. Their banh mi is fresh bread. I would say it's a little bigger than what you normally get, but it's $11, $12. So people in Ballard going bonkers saying this in the ID is $4 for $5. You're charging twice in Ballard, and they were really upset. I got literally 10 to 15 hate mails. One, I don't own this restaurant, right? I have nothing to do with this. I'm just reporting there's a new opening. But two, it's like they don't accept that Ballard is higher real estate. You pay more in rent per square footage. They just want, regardless of wherever you are, you can be in Mercer Island. They want that money to be $4. They don't care that you pay on Mercer Island 5 times the real estate. It's really funny. We have a really unhealthy relationship with ethnic food and minority food, where we just don't allow them to charge more. Like, it's unacceptable, right? It's weird. It always bugs me.
Well,
Yeah.
I would be bugged too. And I don't know. Did they like send you the hate mail because you're the Asian guy writing about it?
Yeah, I think one, I'm the Asian guy, and two, they can't get in touch with the restaurant. It's easy because my email, my phone number is at
Oh,
endless
yeah.
storage.
Right.
And then they just comment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the most fascinating things, and I hope as a culture we here get to a point where, okay, go ahead and criticize the handful of noodles that's $15.99, but just know fresh pasta with ragu sauce is $22, $26, and you never complain.
Do you write about that? Have you written about that?
We have. My colleagues have. And I've talked about it in several podcasts. It's become a national issue, but no one seems to accept that. And I don't understand why. Because Matt, and I know you do, and I know the public does too. We know that there's inflation. We know that gas prices go up over here. We know that our rent go up over here. But we won't accept that banh mi prices can increase over the year. It's bonkers, right?
Right.
It's like they still expect a banh mi to cost, what was it, $2.99 10 years ago, with $3.99 5 years ago? Yeah, so I don't understand this. And I think it's partly our culture too. We're like, hey, we just don't speak up or what have you. We just accept this.
We take it because I think all ethnic groups, because they're just trying to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And so you talk about the families that are, well, I grew up in a Mexican family in Central Washington, a farm family, and that's why we had so many kids, is because we were the labor force,
Exactly.
And
you don't take a salary.
No, you don't take a salary.
Yeah.
No, you don't take a vacation. You don't take nothing. It's all about trying to make things work for the family. Yeah.
The pricing stuff has also changed the menus a lot of Asian restaurants, right? I mean, in Chinatown, the staple, right, was a rice plate. You get a big pile of rice and you get some entree or whatever it is, on the rice, and that's it. And it's like $6, $7. You don't even see that anymore. Everything's, plated up into entrees and stuff. people don't realize the amount of restaurants that have bit the dust in the CID because you don't have near the variety you used to have down there. And then I don't know if these high end food magazines, like Seattle Med and Seattle Magazine, it's always some white guy saying, "Here are the top 10 Asian restaurants," and half of them I never even heard of. And it's some obscure kind of cuisine, and I'm sure it's good, but I mean, the local eateries get no love.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of diversity, because to find some of the best Vietnamese restaurants or taco trucks and so forth, you have to go to some of these neighborhoods and go around the corner and so forth. And people don't do that. I live near Chinatown, and I would say most diners there are Asians. So how would mainstream or white people, how would they know some of these restaurants? Right?
Yelp, right?
Magazines. Yeah, they use Yelp.
Yeah.
And you know what? Yelp is, and even Yelp is, it's too bad if you use Yelp, because a lot of these mom and pop Asian, especially Asian, Vietnamese, restaurant, Cambodian, they don't have a web page, so it's like they don't have a presence. They don't pop up on Yelp all the time.
Right. Well, I think if you go find a place where there's usually a lot of the locals, if the Mexicans are coming to the taco truck, that's probably going to be a pretty good taco truck, and the same other hole in the wall places that there is. And if you want the good food and maybe the prices that they're looking for, hey, you need to go there and check it out, because the food generally is really good.
Yeah. I always find that I'm more sensitive to this now during the Trump era, because a lot of talks of immigrations and cutting refugees. But wherever I travel, guys, I would say if it's a liberal city with a high refugees or immigrant population, you have a really good diverse food culture. Because that's what we do, right? Like, this is what our parents do. When we're uprooted from our community and we move to another, we open some shit here, teriyaki shop, banh mi shop, pho shop, tacos. And you can always tell when a city is welcoming to refugees and minorities.
Because Cracker Barrel isn't number one on the Yelp list.
There you go. Yeah.
So Todd, what is your background? I mean, how did you end up writing about food in Seattle?
Oh man, I started as a news reporter. I was a military reporter in Macon, Georgia, and everyone who was a military reporter in Macon, Georgia, ended up being a war correspondent or a Pentagon correspondent. But the time I was there, it was peacetime, so there was no war. So I didn't get to put that on my resume. And it's kind of morbid to wait around for a war to improve your resume. I always wanted to be in Seattle, and they recruited me. So I came to Seattle as a Metro reporter. So I was a Metro reporter for the longest time. I was an education reporter, and I'm single. So education issues are important, but it didn't resonate with me because I don't have kids and I didn't have to deal with parents. And I think my breaking point was, it was around midnight in the Seattle school board meeting, and the lights automatically go off at midnight.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, thank God. Now the meeting's over. I can go home. Oh, no. They called the janitor to turn the light back on, and the meeting kept on going. And that's when I said, I got to get off this beat. I'm getting burned out. I slowly transitioned to covering travel and drinks, and I became the drink bar reporter, nightlife reporter. And recently I became one of their 2 restaurant critic and food writer, covering the Seattle greater area.
So did education drive you to drink? Is that part of it or what? Yeah. So where were you born and raised?
I was born in Saigon, Vietnam. Refugee, War of 75 displaced my family. Came here. One of the few Asians that couldn't do math or science, so I gravitated.
Oh, wait a second here.
That's why we became journalists. We're good with words, or we're just not good with science and math. And it just agrees with me. It's just the power of the press. Yeah. Because being from a third world country, you see how press get underutilized or manipulated, and see the power of the press now. Well, not now, because now people hate the press. But coming to the United States, say, wow, we're in Bernstein and everything that's happening, and whistleblowers and how they have to call people out. It just grows. This is why we escaped communist Vietnam to be in the United States and to experience this. And there's nothing like it.
Right. And where
So
did you, when you first
as
came to the States, where did you come? Where did you land?
I landed in Washington, D.C. because our sponsor was there.
Okay.
So I was there. Went to college there, University of Maryland, graduated in journalism. Went to North Carolina for a year in a small newspaper. Hated it. Swore I would never go further south. Ended up in Macon, Georgia for 2 years. It was just a great job, and I couldn't turn it down. And then Seattle came open in 2099. Gosh, I've lost track of time. And it was just, I knew I would love Seattle. And it's everything I thought, guys.
Yeah.
It's everything I thought. Just a beautiful city. The water tastes so much better. There are trees here. But I grew up in D.C., so it's a different.
Yeah,
that's true.
So this is weird to me.
There is a pretty good size or of Vietnamese community here.
Yeah. One of the largest in the country. I mean, not as large as Orange County or San Jose, but this is a large Vietnamese community. Again, as reflecting the food, right? How many pho places do you see? How many banh mi places do you see?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you can thank the fact, if you love pho and you love banh mi, you can thank Governor Dan Evans and the liberal city for allowing refugees, encouraging Vietnamese to come here. That's why he has to make pho and banh mi.
Yeah, Dan Evans is quite a hero because he was the guy that opened the door for the Vietnamese community to come here and to grow here. So yeah.
During the Trump administration, I tell people, like, if you're anti-immigrant or anti-refugee issues before, and you love Vietnamese food and Mexican food, then you better change your stance.
That's true. Yeah.
Because if a city doesn't allow refugees and immigrants, where are you going to get the banh mi and the taco trucks? Where do you think that's coming from?
It's not only just who may be serving, it's the people that are making the food. I mean, you can go
even
into...
now, most of the chefs are Mexican, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
In Asian places too, you know. I mean, if you go into the back in the kitchen area, they're going to be Latino for the most part.
Well, didn't Bourdain write about that in his book? He said within a generation.
Oh, he loved Mexican food and taco trucks. Yeah.
And it's true. Bourdain said it, and Matt, you guys hit it right on the head. And that is, during the Trump administration, if you can think back, you heard a lot of celebrity chefs and white chefs defending Mexicans because all kitchens are run by Mexicans.
Yeah.
The dishwashers, they do the job that most people don't want. And you want to get rid of Mexicans from crossing the border? Where you can get the labor force?
Yeah. Well, it used to be Asians, right? It used to be a lot of the cooks in restaurants were Chinese.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, and then they got jobs at Safeway, right? Doing the buffet. And so they get benefits and all that other stuff, right?
Yeah.
But now it's sort of cycling again, where it's the Mexican culture that's taken over kitchens.
Yeah.
Right.
Man, I love Bar, great Vietnamese restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a peek, and I have a kid with the owner. He says, no, you're right. We're 100% Mexican labor force.
Yeah.
It's like you can't survive without the Mexican workforce in the industry. Mm-hmm. So this is another way of saying, chill out, relax about the anti-immigrants and refugees. Just remember what they've done, just for the food industry alone. You need it. You need
then also for people, they got to recognize it does keep their costs down.
Exactly.
Until they move up to the top flight restaurants.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's one of the ugly secrets. It's like,
people need to understand that inflation doesn't. It is spreads across all races and businesses. The fact is,
but it's psychology of what people will spend their money on, right? They'll hem and haw over a hamburger, yet they'll go out and buy like some makeup at like $100 and allow themselves to do that.
Yeah,
or go to a high-end restaurant and spend $200 and think nothing of it, but then they'll just bitch and moan about a $12 banh mi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's a shame because meat costs a lot now, guys. A lot. I mean, beef, pork, seafood, it's a lot. If anything, I would be scared if you fed me a taco or with fish or a seafood plate that's under $10. I would be scared to eat it because seafood costs a lot of money. And I was like, how the heck did you manage to make this so cheap? I would worry about the quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being a food writer, so do you try to maintain a certain level of anonymity, where you don't want people to know you're the critic walking in?
I do. In fact, I have many fake credit cards with different names. And for the longest time, I could not keep track Well, we're not video because I have a fake credit card here. Fake card means just the name. And then I cannot keep track of the names I use. So I have some names. I use names of Hong Kong directors. Johnny To is one of my names. John Woo is one of my names. And I'll tell you a funny story. I was we didn't do a restaurant review, but it was a hot restaurant in Kirtland area by the waterfront. And that night I had used the name John Woo. And I forgot I used John Woo. I thought it was Johnny To that night. So now I'm waiting in the bar for them to call my name, and they're yelling out, John Woo for two, John Woo for two. And I thought it was Johnny To that night. So I totally forgot. So 20 minutes in, I went and checked and said, I made a reservation. And there's like, Johnny To? It's like, no, there's a John Woo. That's me. So now, if you got to eat out with me, you would see that right in my hand that tonight I'm Johnny To or John Woo or whatever.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I can't keep track. Yeah. So I try to come with easy names so I can keep track in my head.
Oh, wow. Do you ever come up with new ones just because you use them so much or whatever? Or
I can't. I'm too old and I'm just too spacey. So I need like some reference. I can't use Tom Brady, right? I remember that. But there has to be an Asian name. Yeah. And I love Hong Kong gangster martial art movies. And those are my two favorite directors, John Woo and Johnny To. So I stick with that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of high-end restaurants and so forth, they won't know who John Woo is. It's such a common name. Johnny To, I have been busted on Johnny To because it was a couple of like hip Capitol Hill restaurants. I said, Johnny To. It's like, like the Hong Kong director.
Oh, really?
I mean, they didn't know. They just thought it was a coincidence, but they picked it up. Two people. Gosh, what restaurant? They were both in Capitol Hill.
Hey, try Wu-Tang maybe or something like that. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
some young guy.
Some young guy.
Right? Because I can't use Bruce Lee. That's kind of a little too obvious. Or then it's like,
Yeah, that's too big a flex.
Yeah, so John Woo makes sense and Johnny To makes sense.
So where do you see things going with the industry as we are coming out of COVID now?
I think actually you're going to see a model that a lot of Asian restaurants use, and that is fast casual. And when we think of fast casual, we think of like sandwich makers like Subway or Chipotle. But guess what? Vietnamese banh mi shop have done it that streamline, use that model for years beyond that. And so has Burrito in like San Fran. Like you get Burrito. It's set up like Chipotle long before Chipotle, right? So you're seeing that more. And the reason why is one, labor cost is high. So when you streamline do a fast casual like that, it's easier. Because I don't know if your background, all three of us could do a fast casual because we put all the food in front of me. He's like, oh, you want a banh mi? And we put that here,
right.
Put that.
Yeah.
So one is labor. So fast casual solves some of the labor issue. And two, the cost is high, right? It's hard to hire a chef. But if you make like a pound of carnitas or a pound of like meat for banh mi and you just assemble, it's cheaper. And along the same line, I can give you perfect examples. Let's take Chinatown. The hot opening last year is Pho Box, who just was nominated for James Beard Award. Their place, The Boat.
Oh, yeah. I was just there. It was good. Okay.
Now, what is The Boat? The Boat is pretty much fast casual. The Boat is just two dishes. It's a chicken noodle dish. It's a chicken rice dish. That's it. And they can spin whatever, say, hey, we just want to specialize in this or that. But it's easy, right? Chicken is cheap. And two, you don't need a big staff. You're only doing two dishes, right? You're just doing
but they have the rice, waffles.
Chicken with noodles. And waffles too, sure. But they do waffles and that's easy too, right?
Yeah.
And what is a hot restaurant this year that will open in ID? It is another big name shop, Melissa Miranda.
Right.
Oh, yeah. What's her place going to be like?
Fantastic restaurant. She is opening a place called Kilig. Kilig. I think that's pronounced Kilig. Don't kill me if I mispronounce that. What is it? Same concept. Pretty much fast casual. It's two dishes. It's going to be a beef soup, Filipino beef soup, and it's going to be wok fried noodles. Two dishes. Right? And again, it's simple. What does it do? It takes the labor out because you're just doing two dishes. And it's like, you do wok fry? Oh, you're a meat eater? We put beef on that. What, you're a vegetarian? We put tofu on that. It's easy.
Yeah. And and the space you need to occupy isn't as large,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So you're kind of balancing profit with good food, and that I think it's more like it is in Asia, like food stalls only brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Or like
Exactly.
in Mexico, where you go to markets and you
Yeah.
basically walk in and you grab the food. There might be picnic tables there or something like that, but that's about it.
Yeah. And you're gonna see a lot more of that this year. It just kills me like when people see like Banh shop assembling sandwiches, like, oh, you're copying Subway. Vietnamese and other restaurants have been doing this for years, right?
Yeah.
But when they see like burrito station where you say, hey, I have carnitas, I have this. It's like, oh, you're copying Chipotle. No, Mexicans been doing this forever, like especially in San Fran, even.
Oh
Right.
yeah, like those Mission style burritos in the Mission
Yeah,
district. Those are awesome.
right. Yeah. So they didn't copy Chipotle. Chipotle copied them.
Yeah, they just put the healthy spin and all that marketing behind it.
You know,
Exactly.
we've seen because of gentrification, a lot of the African American community gets shifted to the South End, and I think we had a conversation with Estela Ortega from El Centro de la Raza, and they are focusing a lot on South King County in their services, mainly because there's so many Latinos now that I think she said something like 50%, more than 50% of the population in that area is Latino now. Now, are we seeing a big growth of restaurants that cater to that community?
I think you will. I think wherever you see a big hub um of Asians or Latinos or whatever, you see a big like Chinatown or a Mexican place. And I'll give you an example. I live near the China. My house is in Jenkins Park, so I live near Rainier Valley. And if you ever want to know why Rainier Valley, except the Holly area, has
Mhm.
so many Vietnamese restaurants, it's because near there is a lot of public housing for Vietnamese refugees. So yeah, wherever you find big minorities population, there will be a lot of minorities food. Mexican population, a lot of Mexican food.
Yeah. And what about the black community? I mean, they definitely have gotten pushed around in this city, particularly out of the central district. Where are they opening places?
I think you can look at the central district. There are two areas. One is 23rd and Union, and that's where Communion, one of the big name
Mhm.
restaurants, has opened up. There is a mixed use development that's focused on African American businesses and also tenants. They don't. I think it's considered discrimination to focus on the race, so they don't call it like this housing is focused on needy African Americans. They just say needy minority group. But the idea is hopefully to build
Yeah.
a black community on 23rd and Union.
Right.
I know
It's forming
Miss
quite nicely.
Miss Helens is moving back in there because I guess her
Yes.
granddaughter, right?
Right.
Yes.
Is that,
Yeah.
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 That's
That's
one thing I
another.
missed at 23rd Union was all the soul food. You know,
Yeah.
it's all the best pet store now. I think it's just crazy. You know, it's
That's
you
right.
get like people in the coffee shops go like, why are there so many black people here? Oh, I don't know. Maybe just
Maybe
where
because
they live.
yeah, where they were here before you were here, and
Yeah.
they got put here because you were here.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was
Oh,
part of
you
it
know,
too.
there's one thing before we leave. There's always a food rivalry when I talk to people in the food industry between Portland and Seattle. I mean, the grass is always greener because I think Portland is less pretentious and more adventurous. Seattle's a little more corporate. I don't know. What do you see as far as that battle?
I would say 5 years ago or 4 years ago, I think food costs and so forth were much lower in Portland. And so Portland had a great game. And also, food trucks are more acceptable on Portland on
Right.
public streets. So that's why you don't see like little enclave of food trucks like you do in Portland. Um, but now they're facing the same situation we do: labor shortage, high costs of food and everything. So I would say it's a pretty even level playing field. A lot of the restaurants down there are facing the same challenges we do. So they don't have that advantage of say 4 or 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
where labor was so much cheaper, supposedly. I don't think it was that much cheaper, but people seem to think so. So yeah, I don't think you're missing anything by leaving Seattle and opening in Portland and vice versa. We're
And
not that different.
How about the community unrest that's happened down there? Is that affected
I didn't hear you. Say one more time.
the community unrest that had been happening there? They had a lot of protests, and their homeless situation in many ways is worse than ours.
Right. See, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's not much different from ours. So I think it's just an illusion that people have, because their homeless situation is much worse than ours.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of it's just like how it's playing out in our Chinatown. There's just angry that the city is not doing enough to help the businesses and the homeless people, or they're getting dumped in this area or that area. Don't leave Portland don't go to Portland thinking it's any better than Seattle, and vice versa. We're all in the same boat. It's a tough economy.
And I think people have to realize this is happening around the country. This isn't just a Northwest deal that's being affected here. I think these places are really, it's spreading, and the impact of homelessness and the kind of chaos in the cities, it's having an effect on everybody.
Yeah, in California and here, it's everywhere. And I don't have a solution for that. I don't know if there's a solution for that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, this has been great.
It has been.
We Enrique are talking like we should get somebody on here about food, and obviously a person of color, and that's what we want to talk to. But this has been fascinating.
Yeah. So you got to come back, and we know we got to let you run because you got to go do another podcast with somebody. But come back and we'll talk more about some of the places that you think we should all know about.
Let's do that.
Yeah,
I would love that, Matt and Enrique. That
all
would
right.
be great.
All right, Tan. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Tan Vinh. All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.